Welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Okay, I'm ready to dive into something that's really been swirling around.
Me too. It's one of those stories that seems simple on the surface, like just a trip, right?
Right.
But it opens up this whole conversation about public figures' influence and how narratives get shaped.
Exactly. So today we're unpacking this fascinating and honestly pretty wild situation. It involves a well-known Taiwanese influencer, right?
Yeah, and his recent, let's call it a jaunt to China. This is a discussion, episode 4.
It definitely sparked a lot of chatter, confusion too, and maybe even some serious eye rolls.
Oh, for sure. He's finally left China and returned to Taiwan. We've previously analyzed his absurdities. Our audience loves it. Today, let's break it down again and provide some simple background for listeners who haven't heard it.
Figure out what he actually said, why it landed one way in some places and completely differently in others.
And what it all tells us about information, influence, perception, in this totally connected world we live in.
Okay, let's get into it. So first off, who are we talking about? This is a prominent Taiwanese influencer.
Right, known for this very specific image, right? The tough guy persona. Totally. Rugged, kind of battle-hardened vibe, always talking straight. And politically, he'd been pretty vocal.
Very vocal, like clearly pro-Taiwan, anti-CCP in a lot of his past stuff. That was his brand.
He built a huge following on that. People saw him as like this unshakable figure.
Solid opinions, wouldn't back down. That authenticity or perceived authenticity was key.
Right. So imagine the surprise, the collective double take across Taiwan.
Yeah.
When this same guy pops up, live streaming from Shanghai in China.
Whoa.
And not just a quick visit. He stayed for a bit, broadcasting his whole experience.
And the reaction back home?
Well, this is the funny part. A lot of people in Taiwan seem to be wishing he'd actually stayed longer.
Seriously? Why?
Well, the reasons started unfolding pretty fast, and it became this spectacle, part amusing, part maybe a little concerning.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So, shock, amusement. What else?
A lot of accusations flew around. People were calling it country bumpkin in the city syndrome.
Ouch. Like he was just completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, like totally mesmerized by everything, out of his element. His whole tough image just kind of disintegrated.
Wow. So it was a real-time unraveling.
Oh, unraveling is mild. Let me give you some highlights. The greatest hits of absurdity from his streams.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, basic stuff. Amenities. He seemed genuinely blown away by things we, take for granted.
Like what?
Okay, get this. A direct quote. The toilets have doors. So advanced.
Seriously. Doors on toilets.
Yes. People were like, is this a joke? It instantly sounded like either he was incredibly naive or
putting on a show, trying to make China seem super advanced in the most basic ways.
Exactly. It felt like he was setting up this China's amazing narrative from the get-go.
Okay, so toilets have doors. What else?
He kept going. The toilets are so clean. The trash cans are so high-end.
High-end trash cans.
Yeah. Like comparing constantly, implying Taiwan's facilities are somehow stuck in the past. It just felt manufactured.
That pattern sounds deliberate. Did it extend beyond bathrooms?
Oh, yeah. Infrastructure got the same treatment. Over-the-top praise.
Like the buildings? Shanghai's got a big skyline.
He was floored. The buildings are so tall, so grand, even better than Taipei 101.
Better than 101. I mean, it's impressive, but Shanghai's a major global city. Lots of cities have tall buildings.
Right. It lacked any kind of real context. Praising skyscrapers like they're unique to China, ignoring Taipei 101's own status. It just felt exaggerated.
And kind of dismissive of Taiwan's own achievement.
Totally. And, praising wide roads and modern architecture, that's fine. But the way he did it with such, breathless awe, it felt like it was glossing over the other side of that development. The costs, the living conditions for regular people.
More surface-level wow factor, less substance.
Exactly. Then came the tech stuff, which got even more interesting.
Okay, like the high-speed rail. China's is pretty famous.
He raved about it.
Yeah.
So fast, like a plane. Seats more comfortable than Taiwan's HSR.
Okay, China's HSR has its points, but better seats. Taiwan's is known for good service and reliability.
Right. It felt less like a fair comparison and more like another dig, another way to say Taiwan's lagging behind.
Okay, what else on the tech front?
This one made people laugh. He saw delivery robots in a mall or restaurant.
Okay. Those are around.
His reaction. There are robots. So advanced. And then the kicker. Is this available in Taiwan?
Oh, come on. Seriously?
Yeah. People in Taiwan were like, yes, we have those too. Showed either he had no clue or he was playing dumb for the camera.
Or maybe for the audience he was trying to reach in China.
Could be. Which brings us to the biggest one, the most controversial statement, maybe.
Let me guess. AI.
Bingo. He dropped this line. DeepSeek shocked the world. Taiwan can't make this.
Oof. Okay, DeepSeek. That's the Chinese AI model, right? Got some attention.
Yeah, apparently it's pretty good, efficient to train. But saying Taiwan can't make something like it, while dismissing Taiwan's own tech scene.
That's a big claim. And a politically charged one. Praising China's AI while putting Taiwan down, that fits a certain narrative.
A narrative he seemed very keen on promoting, which also ties into his, let's say, interesting takes on freedom there. Oh, boy. What did he say about that?
He claimed, no one cares if you bypass the firewall. So free.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
The Great Firewall? He said it's easy to get around and nobody cares.
That's what he said. People immediately called that out as, well, basically nonsense. Everyone knows how strict internet censorship is there.
It's like saying water isn't wet. Just fundamentally contradicts reality.
Right. And he followed up with, YouTube streams freely, no one gets caught.
Well, everyone watching suspected his whole trip, including his internet access, was probably officially managed.
Exactly. Making his experience hardly typical. It felt totally orchestrated.
A curated experience presented as normal freedom.
Totally. And the blunders kept coming. Simple stuff. Geography.
Oh.
He said, Shanghai has no time difference, but I need to adjust.
Very Shanghai and Taipei are in the same time zone.
I know. Such a basic fact.
Yeah.
It just chipped away even more at his credibility. Little things like that add up, make you question everything else he's saying.
Definitely. And the overgeneralizing continued. Shanghai is so international, different from Taiwan.
As if Taiwan doesn't have international cities. Or as if Shanghai represents all 1.4 billion people in China.
Right. And praising the police. So friendly.
Yeah.
Friendlier than Taiwan's police. Streets are super safe.
While completely ignoring the massive surveillance state and social controls that underpin that surface-level safety.
It's safety through control, not just friendly cops on the beat.
A very different model.
And then, the final piece. The image itself. The hard man.
The tough guy persona. How did that hold up?
It didn't. It just crumbled. Gone was the battle-hardened talker. Instead, he was almost tearful, full of gratitude.
Tearful? What was he saying?
Things like, I came to China, these people are so good, and even more pointedly, you Chinese people are so good to me, really, I'm so touched.
Wow. That's a complete 180 from the anti-CCP stance.
Totally. People started using this phrase, appearance of a curator, soul of a lickspittle.
Ouch. Harsh.
Yeah. Or muscle wrapped in a glass heart. Tough at home, but totally submissive when faced with, Chinese authority or the official narrative.
A really dramatic shift. Undermined his whole brand.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, in Taiwan, ridicule, disbelief, anger. But you mentioned something earlier.
Yeah, how it landed differently in China.
Right. So why? Why did people in China seem to react positively? Why did they feel he spoke well?
This gets into that really interesting paradox, right? The paradox of criticism.
Explain that.
Well, think about it. How can a government or a system that heavily restricts its own people from criticizing it then turn around and get really upset when outsiders offer criticism? It doesn't quite add up logically.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if you allow free speech internally, maybe your complaints about external negativity hold more water.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's like, imagine someone decorates their house, right? Insists their family only say nice things about the wallpaper.
Okay.
Then they yell at the neighbors for not admiring it enough or for pointing out a crack in the paint. It feels inconsistent.
That's a great analogy. So it's less about foreign media being biased and more about the internal information bubble being so controlled.
Precisely. The information environment inside China is so tightly managed, so focused on positive narratives.
That anything critical from the outside feels like an attack.
Yeah.
Like slander.
Yes. Because the domestic audience just isn't exposed to that kind of critical self-assessment from within their own media system. It's a closed loop.
So when foreign media talks about human rights issues, or economic competition, or cross-strait stuff.
Yeah, things Western media often focuses on, often tied to their own values or geopolitical concerns.
Okay.
That coverage feels jarringly negative compared to the steady stream of core socialist values and national achievements promoted internally by state-controlled media.
Which must create some serious cognitive dissonance for people.
Absolutely. If you're only hearing one side, the positive side, domestically.
Then the outside criticism feels unfair, biased, like smearing China, even if it's based on factual reporting from the outside perspective.
Right. They genuinely might feel Foreign media overlooks the good stuff, the infrastructure, the tech progress, because that's what they see emphasized every day. China actively pushes the Tell China's Story Well campaign globally to counter this.
Okay, so that's the backdrop. Information control, perceived bias. And Kuanzhang walks into this.
Right. And his trip starts looking less like a vacation and more like something else.
Well, performance.
Yeah.
Maybe carefully orchestrated. What were his motivations, do we think, and how did China benefit?
Well, you can see the layers. First, the obvious stuff. Attention, potential gain.
The numbers were huge, right?
Massive. Hundreds of thousands of viewers live, millions of searches on Weibo. That's huge buzz.
But maybe not all organic.
Yeah.
People questioned if bots were involved.
That question definitely came up. Inflating numbers isn't uncommon. But even so, the visibility was enormous.
And he did that collaboration too, right? The eating live stream.
Yeah, the mukbang with Wang Xiaofei. Another huge audience pull. So clear commercial intent, massive exposure. That means potential money, deals, influence.
Okay, so there's the traffic and money angle. But the political side was impossible to ignore.
Absolutely impossible. This wasn't just the subtle shift. The guy known for being pro-Taiwan, anti-CCP,
suddenly starts praising China and criticizing Taiwan's ruling party, the DPP.
Exactly. And that alignment, it seemed to get noticed and, well, rewarded. China Central Television, the state broadcaster, reported glowingly on his exploding popularity.
So it's a win-win, kinda. He gets fame and maybe fortune. China gets a Taiwanese voice saying things they want said.
That's how it often works in these situations. It leverages familiarity for political gain.
Which leads straight to those United Front suspicions.
Right. Reports suggested his itinerary wasn't random. It was officially arranged. Classic United Front playbook.
What's that involve usually?
Showing off the good stuff. A curated, beautified version of reality, glossing over any problems. The United Front Work Department is all about influencing key people outside the party.
And influencers are definitely key people now.
Big time. Some lawyers who've seen similar tours called his comments counterproductive propaganda because they were so over the top, they lacked credibility.
Too obvious. Maybe.
Some online comments were brutal, like saying he was as good as a dog in China, implying he was totally controlled. It felt like a low-intensity, united front effort using culture, not just politics.
And a big part of that seemed to be putting Taiwan down.
Crucial part. Constantly comparing, always finding China superior. Taiwan can't make DeepSeek the toilets thing.
Yeah.
It's designed to create that China strong, Taiwan weak feeling. And directly attacking the DPP, calling it brainwashing.
That sounds like a direct echo of official CCP talking point.
Exactly. It's not just his opinion anymore. It becomes, like you said, Chinese spoken with a Taiwanese accent. Carefully selected language. Amplified, almost like reading from a script for a United Front drama.
Okay, so this whole thing wasn't just a local story. It had international ripples.
Yeah.
How did media outside Taiwan and China see it? Like Western outlets?
Yeah, places like the BBC or The Guardian, they often framed it pretty directly. Titles like, how a Taiwanese influencer became an unwitting mouthpiece for China's soft power.
Unwitting, huh? Or maybe witting.
Well, their analysis definitely saw it as classic China strategy, evolving United Front tactics.
Moving beyond just state media.
Right. Co-opting cultural figures, KOLs, his dramatic flip-flop. Perfect example. Having a Taiwanese person praise China, way more persuasive than official propaganda.
Makes sense. It feels more authentic, even if it isn't.
And they highlighted how this builds those information bubbles, how China's big external propaganda works.
Making people inside China think only praise is objective.
Exactly. And any criticism is just slander or anti-China. It walls off dissenting views.
And the DeepSeek AI thing came up again in their reporting.
Big time. The fact that this advanced AI gave such politically correct answers on Taiwan.
Saying Taiwan is an inalienable part of China.
Yeah. That showed it wasn't neutral. It was, as they put it, a censored AI. A digital doppelganger of the CCP propaganda department.
Wow. Not just tech, but ideological tech.
Precisely. Reinforcing the state narrative, even through algorithms.
What about media in, say, Japan? How do they see it?
Japanese outlets like NHK often framed it as Taiwanese celebrity used for praise diplomacy in China.
Praise diplomacy, I like that.
Their focus was often on the conflict for the individual, like personal gain versus national image.
So sacrificing Taiwan's standing for clicks and cash.
That was the implication. And they really emphasized the contrast. Japan and Taiwan's free speech environments versus China's tightly controlled space where only positive energy gets traction.
Highlighting the value of open discourse.
Definitely. And then you have the international organizations, the watchdogs.
Like Freedom House or Reporters Without Borders.
Exactly. Their reports talked about China exporting its censorship model, co-opting foreign influencers, rewarding pro-China speech with access, with exposure.
So Kuanzhang wasn't an isolated case, but a successful template.
That's how they saw it. China encourages KOLs, shapes their narratives, subtly avoids sensitive topics, get rewarded for positive content. It builds this whole pro-China content ecosystem.
An ecosystem that reaches audiences globally.
Right. And the warning from these groups was clear. This isn't just about governments anymore. It's targeting creators, audiences, everyone.
And democracies need to be aware. Build resilience.
That was the message. If democratic societies aren't careful, these authoritarian narratives can seep in, change perceptions, undermine public discourse. It's about needing that anti-infiltration immunity.
So globally, this wasn't just a joke. It was seen as China testing new influence tactics.
A clear example of how easily a public figure can become a pawn, intentionally or not, in a much bigger information game.
Okay, so while Kuanzhang is getting analyzed internationally, back in Taiwan, someone else steps up. Another influencer, right, Baijiang.
Yes, and his approach was completely different. Genius, actually.
He made a satirical video.
Not just satirical. Some called it a cultural nuclear bomb against the kind of propaganda Kuanzhang was echoing.
Whoa, high praise. How did it work?
It was brilliant because it didn't just say Kuanzhang was absurd, it showed it. It mirrored the absurdity back so perfectly you had to laugh, but then you thought, wait, do people actually act like this?
Okay, how did he mirror it?
He created this character, someone from a fictional Hualien nation. Hualien's a real place in Taiwan, but he framed it as a separate, less developed nation.
Got it.
And this character visits Taipei Nation for the first time, using that same over-the-top, breathless, awestruck tone as Kuanzhang, praising the most basic Taipei things. Oh my God, traffic lights, escalators, AI hotels, even like cards with President Lai's photo. So advanced.
That's hilarious, because everyone watching knows those things are completely normal.
Exactly. It triggered that, wait, we already have this feeling instantly. It showed how ridiculous Kuanzhang sounded being amazed by standard infrastructure in China.
Like, if that's amazing, then our everyday stuff must be revolutionary. It flipped the script.
Perfectly. It exposed the selective awe, the manufactured amazement in Kuanzhang's performance. It wasn't just mimicry, though. It was smarter.
How so?
He used contradiction to expose media manipulation. His character kept saying stuff like, our Hualien media tells us Taipei's economy is collapsing, everyone's jobless.
Okay.
But he's saying this while walking through bustling, obviously prosperous parts of Taipei. And he'd mutter, actually, our economy seems to be the one struggling.
The fake realization. Showing the propaganda versus the reality right there.
It's meta-satire.
Yeah.
That self-mockery broke the fourth wall. It forced the audience to see the connection. The character's absurdity reflects real people in Taiwan who parrot pro-unification lines, thinking they're objective, but actually just tools for propaganda.
Wow, that's layers. Comedy with a real edge.
And he didn't pull punches with direct allegories either. Visiting an unmanned 7-Eleven, the character really emphasizes, wow, no staff, and then adds pointedly, and we haven't locked anyone up.
Ooh, a direct reference to things like the chained woman incident in China.
Seemed like it. Slipping in those sharp reminders of human rights issues, contrasting it with the casual freedom in the Taipei setting, even in satire.
Powerful. And the unification stuff.
He went full throttle, totally over the top. The character starts shouting, we must unify you. Taipei belongs to Hualien Nation.
Making the pro-unification rhetoric sound completely unhinged.
Exactly. Linking it to phrases Beijing uses like common prosperity or great rejuvenation, but in this ridiculous context. It exposed the absurdity, the aggression behind those slogans when stripped bare.
So it wasn't just a parody, it was a deep cultural critique.
Totally. Precise, layered, funny but chilling when you realize it's mirroring real attitudes or talking points. And the irony?
Let me guess. Baijiang's satire thrives in Taiwan's free environment.
While anything remotely similar criticizing unification would be instantly shut down in China, which just highlights the core difference in freedom of expression.
Right. A powerful contrast in itself. Okay, wow. We've covered a lot. Kuanzhang's bizarre trip, the international fallout, Baijiang's brilliant satire. It's been quite the journey.
It really has. So, pulling it all together, what are the big takeaways here? What does this whole episode teach us?
Well, connecting it all up, it feels like a really clear snapshot of modern information warfare.
Absolutely. The Kuanzhang phenomenon, you could call it, is a perfect case study. It shows how soft power works now.
Influencers as the new conduits for state influence.
Pretty much. His sudden flip highlights that strategy. Get Taiwanese people to speak Chinese words. It feels more organic, more trustworthy than official channels.
That strategy seems effective in a sneaky way.
It can be, and the whole thing throws that censorship paradox into sharp relief again.
The absurdity of silencing your own people while complaining about outside criticism.
Yeah, it reveals a certain fragility, perhaps, and the AI angle.
DeepSeek. That felt important.
Super important. It shows technology and ideology are merging. Even advanced AI isn't neutral if it's designed to give politically correct answers.
So AI itself becomes a battleground for narratives.
Potentially a huge one. If AI is where people get information, whoever controls the AI's brain, its programming controls the story. That demands way more critical thinking about our text sources.
That's a heavy thought for the future. And on the flip side, the power of satire.
Crucial. Figures like Kuanzhang, using sharp, smart humor, they're vital for cutting through propaganda.
Encouraging critical thinking, offering a counter-narrative.
Exactly. Especially in free societies, satire can expose hypocrisy like nothing else. It helps build that anti-infiltration immunity we talked about.
Which raises that big question for all of us, right? In this flood of information, often shaped by agendas, how do we know what's real?
Yeah.
How do we build that immunity? How do we teach ourselves and maybe future generations to think critically, to question, to resist manipulation?
It's about media literacy, supporting independent voices, fostering skepticism. It's an ongoing challenge for democratic societies.
Definitely.
And maybe one last thought to leave people with.
Go for it.
A truly confident nation, right? A genuinely strong one. It should be able to handle criticism. It should allow its people to speak freely, even if it's not always praise. When a country feels the need to tightly control the narrative, silence dissent, and rely on outsiders for validation, what does that really say about its underlying confidence?
Is it truly strong if it can't handle even one critical influencer without resorting to censorship or, praise bribes?
It's a question worth thinking about. What does real strength look like in the information age?
Powerful stuff indeed. Definitely a lot to mull over there. We hope that look into the Kuanzhang phenomenon gave you some new angles on information influence and why thinking critically is just so important today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us for this conversation. Seriously, your curiosity keeps us going.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And if you enjoyed this Sip and Talk, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss any of our future explorations.
And hey, while you're clicking around, check out our good friend Mickey's YouTube channel. Seriously, he's got awesome stuff.
What kind of stuff?
Great memes, cool music pics, wine tasting videos, which are always fun, and some really fantastic travel vlogs, too. Just genuinely entertaining content.
Sounds great. We'll put a link somewhere, maybe. Definitely go check it out. You won't regret it.
For sure.
Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Sip and Talk.